Today I'd like to talk about something that I really wish someone had talked to me about sooner, okay? And this will relate to you, especially if you've been feeling like lately you're always on the verge of losing it, okay? Like the weight of everything is just getting too heavy. And I know we hear this word a lot, right? Burnout. We hear this all the time. But I'm not talking about needing just a quick me time or pick me up or a spa day, right? Like not surface area, superficial burnout. I mean the kind that like really sneaks up on you. It can leave you feeling numb and disconnected and short-tempered and can make you feel like you're barely holding it together, right? And here's the thing, if you work, let's say you work outside of the home, you have like a corporate office job. Some of us have sick days, right? So you can take a sick day. But in motherhood and parenting, there are no sick days. There's no pause button. There's no time off, right? And you know you love your kids fiercely. That's never in question. We're not even talking about that. But maybe lately, everything's just starting to feel heavier, right? And you find yourself wondering, is this just how it is now? Like, is this my new normal? Let me stop you right there, okay? No, this is not how it has to be, all right? So let's talk about the signs that you might be missing. These are the quiet, sneaky symptoms that can come up in your everyday routines. Maybe right now you're brushing them off as like, okay, this is just life, you know, things will quiet down soon, right? And things you might not even realize are taking their toll, because they are. But the first step is recognizing it. And recognizing it is that first step to pulling yourself out of that survival mode. And there's no judgment here, okay? This is just a real and honest conversation so you can finally see what's going on and begin to find your way back to feeling like you again. So let me tell you why this is so important to talk about right now, probably even more than ever before, all right? Motherhood and parenting, I think, have always been demanding, of course, but the way that we parent today, it's completely different. Like if we were to go back in time and actually like see the ways that our grandmas used to do it, the way that we're doing it now is completely different because we're raising our kids in a world that runs on just constant noise, right? There's advice flying at us from all the directions, podcasts and parenting blogs and TikToks and Instagram reels and all of this. We're on like information overdrive and overload, and it's exhausting. And instead of helping, and some of it is helpful, of course, but a lot of it just overwhelms us and makes us feel like we're disconnecting from our own parental instincts. And because of that, because of this constant noise, our brains are always in overdrive. We're always on, right? But there's no checking out. There's no clocking out. There's no sick days or breaks, right? It's almost like running a marathon that never really ends, but instead of water stations and, you know, cheering crowds cheering you on, you have somebody handing you another laundry basket, and then you have like a little person asking you, "Mommy, what's for dinner?" Right? Another way to look at it is, I like to use the grocery bag analogy, right? So you don't want to come back to the car, so you loop like 6 bags of groceries, 6 bags around each arm, and then you squeeze one extra grocery bag between like your elbow and your hip. Maybe you balance another grocery bag on your pinky, right? We've all done it, so we know what it is. It's heavy, it's awkward, it's like digging into your skin, right? But you keep going because stopping midway between your car and your front door feels harder. So you're like, I'm just gonna power through, I'm just gonna do it. That's what burnout can feel like as a mom, okay? You're carrying everything. All of these proverbial grocery bags are like meals and schedules and mental load and expectations that you place on yourself. And maybe you're telling yourself, just a little further, if only I can make it to the front door, right? But then the bags get heavier and your grip can weaken, right? And before you even make it to the house, maybe one grocery bag just like rips open from the bottom, right? And all these groceries just like fall out. And it's not because you're weak, it's because no one was meant to carry all of these bags alone every single day. So anyway, this is why this matters now, because so many of us are walking around in this, silent survival mode all the time, and we're smiling on the outside. We look cool, right, and collected. But if we don't start talking about it, and if we don't learn how to recognize the signs, we can't break the cycle, right? And this isn't about blaming ourselves or fixing everything at once. It's about awareness. And it's about self-compassion, and it's finally naming what's been there all along and choosing to take care of you, who are the caretaker for your kids. Who's going to be taking care of the caretaker, right? You need to do it. So when we keep pushing through burnout without pausing to ask, how am I really doing? That's when things can start to crack. So before we dive into those signs, let me just say this. it's really easy to ignore or dismiss what you're feeling, right? Like you might chalk it up to, oh, I'm just a mom, this is just a phase. I'll rest when my kids go to school or whatever, right? But here's the thing, like when you're in that constant state of overwhelm, your body and mind are actually sending you signals. And those signals, they're like little red flags saying, hey, you need a break, something's off, pay attention, right? So I want you to think about some of these signs as we as we talk about them. I want you to think about some of these signs as like warning lights on your car's dashboard, right? So like if your engine light comes on, you know that you need to get your car checked. Same thing with this. If you experience some of these emotions, you know that you need to check in with yourself. And the earlier you spot them, the sooner you can take action. Because if you don't, it then spirals out of control and then it feels almost too big to handle. So let's break these down one by one. Again, no judgment, no guilt, just an honest look at what's going on and why it's important to recognize these feelings when they arise, all right? You're gonna see yourself in some of these as we talk about them, and that's okay. It's not about pointing fingers. It's about understanding so that you can take back control. All right, so the first one I have is when you're not meeting your basic needs, okay? And let's start here because I think this one tends to fly under the radar a lot. And by basic means, I mean eating regular nourishing meals, getting enough sleep, staying hydrated, and just taking care of, personal hygiene like showering and bathing, right? So let me ask you this question. When was the last time you had a proper meal, okay? This sounds funny, but think about it. Not just grabbing snacks or eating leftovers from your kids' plates. We all do it. You know what I'm talking about. But like, when was the last time you had a proper meal? And I know when life gets busy, basic things like eating well and getting enough sleep can very easily just fall to the bottom of the list, right? Like it can just not be our priority in the season of life. And look, it's normal to skip meals or sleep less during stressful times or times of life transition. But if it becomes a pattern, your body starts to send warning signals. So some of the signs to watch out for are if you're feeling tired all day, or if you have trouble concentrating, or if you're irritated at the littlest things, or even like physical discomforts, like small headaches, right? These can mean that you're not fueling yourself properly, that you're not eating properly, or that you're not sleeping enough. All right, so the next one is if you feel isolated, even when you're not alone. So here's the funny thing about burnout. It can make you feel deeply alone, even when you're surrounded by loving family and very supportive friends, right? It's like there's this invisible barrier between you and everybody else, and it feels that like no one quite understands or sees the full weight that you're carrying, right? And this feeling isn't just emotional. I think it's a common response to chronic stress and just overwhelm, because when your brain is overloaded, it's hard to connect and it's hard to communicate because you're just mentally and physically drained, right? You might notice yourself pulling back. Maybe you're not responding to texts right away, or you don't even want to respond to texts, right? Maybe you're skipping a lot of social invites. It's good to say no every once in a while, but if you're doing it all the time, it's not a good thing, right? Or maybe you're just zoning out all the time during conversations. Like for example, if you're listening to somebody and then you just find your mind drifting off. And it's not about not wanting connection with that person, like you really do want to listen, but it's just about not having the energy to engage. So I think this isolation can really feed into burnout. It can make everything feel heavier. And I think recognizing this feeling is really important because it signals that you need support, even if it feels easier in the moment to just retreat and come back, right? Or just like not engage. Anyway, so this is just one of those things that I've noticed in myself. That is just one of the symptoms that, you may be in survival mode. So this next one is when everything feels like a trigger to you. So maybe you spill your coffee and then you start crying, right? Or your toddler throws a little tantrum and you feel your chest tightening up, and then you feel your jaw clenching and like all the facial muscles just really tensing up, right? And then you just feel completely maxed out before the day even starts. So what's happening here is overstimulation. It's when your nervous system is so overwhelmed, it's like a circuit that's about to short out. You have the noise and the mess and the endless demands and everything, and they all kind of like stack up until even like the smallest of things feel like just too much, right? And it's not about overreacting or just being too sensitive. It's your body and your brain telling you that you are overloaded. So when these like everyday small stressors become big triggers, it's a sign that you need a break, all right? Not more willpower, not just power through, you need a break. So recognizing these moments is key because it means that your nervous system needs rest and you need to recalibrate it before things escalate. The next one is if you've recently gone through a big life change. So I found that life changes can really hit you like a wave, and even when you expect them, right? Maybe you moved, maybe you started a new job, maybe you changed your family dynamic, brought a little one into the mix, right? Even positive changes like bringing a baby into this world, it takes a lot of energy. And these transitions require your mind and your body to adapt, which means you have extra stress, often on top of everything else you're already managing and juggling. So if you're finding that you're feeling a bit more tired and more on edge or more disconnected lately, just like zoom out and look back at the big picture and just see what's changed, right? Because sometimes burnout sneaks in when you're just still adjusting to something new. So this next one is when you feel disconnected from yourself, okay? So this could be looking in the mirror and not quite recognizing who's staring back. Not physically, of course, but like you're just kind of like, who am I, right? Like, who is this person? And you know that this person in front of you once had interests and laughter and moments of calm, you know, but now it feels distant, like a faded memory, right? Instead, there's this sense of going through the motions, operating on autopilot, doing things like a robot, right? And this feeling happens because burnout doesn't only drain your energy, it can also disconnect you from your own sense of self, right? So when you're constantly managing the chaos, your brain shifts into survival mode. And then you're focusing on, you know, just getting through the day. And the parts of you that used to bring joy, creativity, or even just simple relaxation, it can feel like you can't reach it, like you can't even attain it at the moment. So it's like this emotional numbness sets in. And you know you're present physically, but like mentally you're distant and emotionally you're distant, right? You might feel like you're on autopilot, just carrying out tasks without really feeling anything, right? But these symptoms, it's important because it signals that burnout has moved way beyond just regular mom tired, and you're now kind of in that state of survival, right? You're kind of at the brink of burnout. Anyway, if any of these sound familiar to you, and even if one of these signs made you think like, yes, you know, like I am experiencing this. First, I just want to send you a giant hug, honestly, and just tell you that, look, you're not broken, okay? You're not bad at this. You're just burnt out or you're in survival mode, right? But now that you've named it, this is the first step towards healing it, okay? So start paying attention to the signals. Notice when you're running on fumes and make a quiet promise to yourself, not to be perfect, but to, you know, to check with yourself and refuel yourself every time you need to, right? Even in small ways. Look, this isn't about fixing your life overnight, okay? It's about noticing when your cup is empty and knowing how to fill it little by little, right? And just remember that you matter, not just as a mom, but as yourself. And yeah, I just want to send you a giant hug. Thank you for joining us today. We wish you the most beautiful day, and we will talk to you soon. Bye.